stop talking and let Itamar take over. Thank
Awesome.
you, Itamar.
Thank you, Rachel. Hi, everyone. My name is Itamar. As Rachel introduced me, I'm one of the Shishinim who came to Rochester 2.5 months ago. And today we're going to cook raime, which is a traditional Sephardic dish. It's white fish cooked in tangy tomato sauce, and it's a dish I learned to cook from my father. Although I have an Ashkenazi background, but we're all Israelis after all. So I'm excited to teach you how to do it, and I hope you can follow me, and we're gonna have fun. So let's begin. I prepared some stuff in advance, but I'm gonna guide you through the recipe. I hope you printed it before, and if not, it was emailed to you. So we're gonna start with cutting the garlic. You want to cut it as small as possible because it gives a good taste, but you don't really want to bite in a big chunk of garlic. It's not gonna taste so good in your mouth. So I'm gonna cut it very small, very quickly, so we can move on. And after that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make the spice mixture. So actually, there isn't one way to make the spice mixture. It depends on your background and if you're Moroccan or Algerian, or it depends on where you come from the world. But this is my personalized spice mix. That it's a mixture of different recipes that I used and did throughout the years. And in my opinion, obviously, it's the best one. But if you don't like anything, you can obviously change it to something else. I guarantee it's gonna taste great in the end, because the secret recipe for food is to put a lot of love into it. And if you do it, it always comes out great. So we have this nice chopped garlic. We're gonna move on to the spice mixture, starting with paprika, sweet paprika. So we're gonna have 2 spoons of this right into this bowl. Awesome. And then we're gonna move to turmeric. We're gonna have somewhere between half a teaspoon to a whole teaspoon. Cumin. This is it's not mandatory, but some people don't like cumin. I like it, so I add it. But if you don't like it, feel free not to add it to your recipe. We're talking about half a teaspoon. I wrote in the recipe caraway. I used anise as a substitute, but caraway tastes better, so you should use caraway. Again, half a teaspoon. And obviously a teaspoon of spicy paprika. The final seasoning we're gonna add is salt, 2 teaspoons of salt, or 1.5, I should say. And after you're gonna make this recipe more than once, you'll start to understand the right amounts. So if something doesn't look like quite right for you, obviously you can make changes. But I'm gonna mix it.
Can I ask you a question about the paprika?
Yes, of course.
If someone doesn't like to have it too spicy, if someone, like me, it doesn't do that well with spicy foods, can they use, either smoky or sweet paprika instead?
I would use smoked paprika instead. Again, you can just 1 teaspoon of spicy paprika equals 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika. So it gives a nice smoky taste to the food, smoky flavor to the food, which is great. But again, I recommend use the spicy paprika unless you're really sensitive to spicy foods. So we're gonna move on to the stove so I can show you what we're doing. Okay. We can start with lighting our stove. So in the meanwhile, until the pot is going to warm up, I'm going to show you the rest of the ingredients. So we have olive oil. This is the ground tomatoes and tomato paste. I mixed them together already. And we have half a cup of water. We're gonna give the pot like 1 or 2 minutes to warm up and heat herself, because we don't want to put the oil in the pot before when it's cold. It's not gonna work out good, obviously. So while we're waiting, I can tell you the first time I tried to make it with my father, I was, I think, 12, and I insisted on making it my own. And he said, okay, I'm only going to supervise you. And obviously, after 30 seconds of making it myself, I got burned. And I left the kitchen. I couldn't keep cooking. So it's kind of a funny story we tell in our family. But since then, I made it a lot of times, and everyone is very happy when I make it. Now I'm going to add the olive oil.
It's a good thing it didn't stop you from continuing to cook.
Cooking is definitely something I'm very passionate about. Okay, great. Let's give it 30 more seconds. And as I said before, cooking is something I'm very passionate about. I'm very happy about. To be honest, I'm not always eating when I'm cooking, but I'm very happy of this thing I can do to have other people be happy. And it's always a nice thing to cook to people you like, and then get good comments on your food, and you can see on their faces they're happy. So if you're not a kitchen person, I recommend you start and work on it, because there's no better feeling than making people you like, making people you love happy. I'm gonna add the garlic now into the pot.
So you have olive oil and now you added the garlic, correct?
Yes, and don't be afraid of the amount of olive oil, because we're gonna add a lot of more things into the pot, and it gives a really good taste. So it's only half a cup, it's not much. It only seems much right now. After I added the garlic, I'm now gonna add the spices.
And we had a smell button.
I wish I could have the smell that's happening here right now. But again, I recommend you make it at your house. It's a successful recipe. It's guaranteed. I mean, and what's better than getting great compliments on food you make, right?
That's
so
right.
I'm gonna let it cook for like 30 seconds, sorry, until the garlic is gonna get golden brown and soften a little bit.
It's got a great color.
Thank you. Now we're gonna, I always like to mix it together, the ground tomatoes or crushed tomatoes, it doesn't matter, in the tomato paste. And we're gonna add it into the pot.
So Itamar, this recipe doesn't go in the oven at all, correct? You cook it on the stove the whole time?
Right. It's very short, very easy. You don't make a lot of mess, which is always important, especially if you cook in a kitchen which is not yours. So you want to keep it nice and clean.
Be like your host family kitchen.
Exactly. I'm gonna let it cook for like 1 to 2 minutes. What I want to happen is I want the tomatoes to I want them to simmer a little bit and let all their juices out, so everything can get mixed together. And after that, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add the water to what's happening here in the pot, and I'm gonna let it simmer for around 10 minutes until the sauce gets smooth and all the flavors come together. So we're not gonna get any powdery flavor of spices, because we're gonna mix them very well into the sauce over here, and let's see what's happening.
Great.
I mean, Michal, I wish you could have some of the smell right now.
I'm just like trying to get the whiff of the scent.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic.
I think it's about time to add our water. Don't be afraid to add it all at once. It does become very watery, but it's gonna get thicker as we're gonna go on.
So that's gonna cook down, right?
Right.
Okay.
We're mixing everything very, very well, making sure there's no powder or anything in here. And then we're gonna lower the heat of the stove a little bit, cover it, and let it simmer for 10 minutes. And I'm a little bit ahead, so I already have my simmered sauce over here.
Oh,
You can take a look.
magic.
Yes. So you can see it becomes a little bit thicker. This is how we want it. We want all the tastes to come together, but we still want it a little bit watery. If it's too thick, add a little bit more water, because whenever we're gonna eat the fish, we're gonna leave it. We're not gonna touch it. And what can happen if the sauce is too thick? It means it doesn't have enough water and it's gonna get burnt. So
right.
if it's too thick, don't be afraid to add water. So now we're gonna.
And you want it to be able to coat the fish, right?
Right. Now we're gonna take a small spoon, give it a nice taste. Perfect. So if you taste it right now and you feel like something is missing, salt or paprika or whatever, this is the point where you want to add some more. Again, I'm reminding you, all the spices will come together. We'll keep cooking it. We're gonna keep on cooking it. So only if you feel like something is really missing, you should add more. And now we're gonna add our fish. So I'm using a fillet of grouper, so I don't have a skin. But if you use a piece of a fish which has skin, make sure the skin is points through the top of the pot. I'm just gonna slide them in very nicely.
What are some other types of fish that you would recommend for this dish?
I would use maybe sea bass or tilapia. I think I wrote it in the recipe as well. But honestly, grouper is the best fish for this recipe. So we can put some sauce on the fishes, so it's gonna get taste from.
I have a question. Can you say if there's skin on it, does the skin go down or up?
Yeah, it goes up. Thank you for mentioning it, Bigman. So it should point towards the top of the pot.
So okay, so
the meaty part of the fish is going to be against the pot, right?
Yes, correct. So we're gonna put a little bit of sauce on top of the fishes. And now we're gonna close it. Let it rest for 15 minutes, cook for 15 minutes. So the recipe says 15 minutes. You should check it around 10 minutes. Make sure it doesn't get dry, because we want nice juicy fish. We don't want it dried at all. What am I gonna do now is I'm gonna make the couscous for the recipe, because Jaime is not complete unless we have couscous to eat it with. So what am I doing? I prepared in advance inside this pot 2 cups of water. So the way that it works is I said just follow what's on the box of the couscous. So my box said 2 cups of water for 2 cups of couscous. And then I have 2 spoons of olive oil and half a teaspoon of salt. And now I'm gonna have the water boil. And there's nothing to be scared of making couscous. It's super easy, and it always comes delicious no matter what you put in it.
And Itamar, tell us a little bit about the difference between regular couscous and Israeli couscous, because people get that confused.
So they're both made out of wheat, but the difference is Israeli couscous is obviously an Israeli invention. In the 1950s, when Israel was just established, so there was a point where people in Israel were in hunger. There wasn't enough food. The country was very poor. So Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, he ordered to take the wheat that we grew, because we couldn't have rice from China. So he told his scientists to make something out of the wheat, and actually they could make what we call the Israeli couscous, which is little circles of wheat, and it tastes wonderful. There's the traditional couscous we're using now is his source is in North Africa, and again, Israeli couscous is invented in Israel. So don't get confused, because the taste difference is it's totally different. But Israeli couscous is great. And actually, it's one of my favorite. I guess this is the main difference.
In Israel, I know it's called ptitim, right?
Right. It's called ptitim because ptitim means in English flakes, and actually it looks like flakes. So this is why we call it ptitim. In Israel, I know I've seen, like, I think I've tried 2 times in my time here in Rochester, but in Israel it comes in very different shapes. So when I was a child, I used to have a lot of Israeli couscous in animal shaped, which was very nice to have. Something I grew up on, and this is wonderful. I mean, as long as I'm a child, I love the kitchen. My dad is the one who mainly cooks in the house. My mom does a lot, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not sure if she's here in the conversation, so I'm covering myself. But my dad is the one who mainly cooks. And I used to sit at my grandparents' house in the kitchen, watch my grandma cook, and then in my kitchen, watch my father cook. And actually the first dish I made was a birthday cake to my mom, which was katashifakal. But as moms always do, she said it was delicious. And since then, I think I fell in love with cooking. And I've been coming home cooking to my brother and sisters out of choice. Like, my father asked, "Are you sure you want me to cook and make anything for you?" I'm like, "No, I like them to have fresh food that I made." And it became a hobby of mine. And throughout the years, I learned how to make more things. And obviously, as I said before, it's something I'm very passionate about, and it's a great hobby to have. So I guess that's it. And now our water is almost boiling. So we're getting prepared to make the couscous. And Beefy or Michal, are there any questions?
I mean, I really just want to see, how you're going to present it at the end, like how you're going to present the dish. And I know you're going to probably show that to us. But I also want to know a little bit more about, I think people would want to know, I know, of course, because I've been working with you. I think people would want to know a little bit more about you in general. If you, while this is all cooking, can tell us a little bit about your life in Modi'in.
Sure.
What did you do besides going to high school?
Yeah, of course. So
Also,
before I'm going to talk about myself.
What inspired you to do this? Like, why didn't you just go straight to the army? Why did you want to come hang out in Rochester for the year?
Yeah, so I'm going to get back to this in a second. I'm just adding very quickly the couscous, the olive oil, and the salt to the water. And I'm mixing it very quickly together. I'm going to mix it for around 30 seconds, 1 minute. And what inspired me to do this gap year is actually when I was in first grade, I skipped a grade. I finished first grade and went all the way to 3rd grade. And I was like, okay, I have like a spare before the army. What can I do? And then I heard about this amazing opportunity to do a gap year in the States. And I was like, who doesn't want to do a gap year in the States? It sounds wonderful. And I applied. And before I know anything else, it's like, I'm here making couscous and chaime on Friday noon. I mix the couscous. I'm gonna let it sit for like 5 minutes.
Wow, it looks great. It cooks so fast.
It does, because the wheat takes all the water very quickly. So what we want to do is let it sit for around 5 minutes, and then we want to mix it really well and use a fork to fluff it. Unless we're gonna do it, it's gonna stick all together and we won't be able to work it. So give it exactly 5 minutes, then use a fork to put all the pieces apart. And I think after this is gonna be ready, we'll be ready to assemble. So we're gonna give it 2 more minutes. I can tell more about myself in the meantime. Yeah. So throughout high school years, I was participating in a youth movement called Crembo Wings. Maybe you heard of it. I worked with children who had severe disabilities, and it's something that changed me a lot as a person, made me more calm and patient and appreciate little gifts I got in my life, like the ability to wake up every morning, stand on my feet and walk to the shower. And say thank you, everyone in my family is happy and well and healthy. Especially it's something that is very important we need to think of, especially in this period of time.
What an amazing experience, Itamar, and how wonderful that you were just so willing to give of yourself like that.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think we're gonna give it 3 more minutes. But I'm gonna tell you one last secret, that I'm up from 8 a.m. making this recipe. So I have prepared the final product.
Oh, wow.
The work of art. So this
that
is the
beautiful.
And the sauce.
Wow.
And you can add parsley on top of it if you like. I did it only for decoration. To be honest, I hate most of herbs. It tastes like soap to me. This is why I use a lot of spices, because I don't like to use herbs. And you can take a close look if you want.
Here's another close look. That looks so beautiful.
I think we should submit him, like he should go on the Rachel Ray cooking show or something.
I was just gonna say.
That's not gonna work.
Shin gets promoted to like a American cooking show. Can you imagine?
It only works for me when I make food to people I love, and it's gonna be hard for me to compete. So I might have this idea, but thank you for the compliment.
I think your family, is that your family here? Is this from Israel?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Look, and it's a whole host of people. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so sweet.
Hey, wait. Where are they? Can we spotlight them for a sec? There they are.
Hi everyone.
Table.
Yeah, this is my.
This is so great, and you're having Shabbat dinner.
Yes,
Shabbat
they are.
Shalom.
I'm gonna use this steak to celebrate my birthday to my grandfather, who yesterday celebrated 75 years. But you look 50, not a day more than that. So I love you a lot, and I hope you enjoyed your birthday. And I wish us as a family a lot of more family meals. And I love you, everyone.
Mazal tov.
Yeah, Mazal tov. I think we're going. We're towards finishing everything, and I'm gonna wish you everyone Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for participating. I hope you enjoyed it, and it inspired you maybe to make this, or if it inspired you to make anything else to your family, this is wonderful. I'll be more than happy. And if you'd like to email me or text me any pictures, I'd love that. That's gonna be amazing. And that's it. Thank you for joining. Thank you for my tech support team, my beloved hosting, Pauline, who's behind stage, filming and taking care of everything. And thank you.
You're welcome. If anyone has any questions for you?
Yeah, I was just thinking if anyone has any questions for Itamar, just unmute yourselves.
You have some thank yous in the chat box. Does anyone?
Thank you. I mean, this is my pleasure, so thank you for joining.
I have a question?
Yeah, Shana has a question.
Does this recipe work as well if you switch out the fish for chicken, let's say?
It might not. We can. I mean, the spices and the taste all suits to fish because it's very strong spices and fish has a very delicate taste. So it might not work because chicken has a very strong taste to it. But you're more than welcome to try and tell me if you figured out that it works. I never tried it.
And do you have a name for this mixture of spices? Like, do you call this Ras El Hanout, like the Moroccan spice?
Well, no, just mixture of spices. Raime mixture of spices, if you like.
The Itamar version.
Yeah, Itamar version of Raime. Actually, my dad's version of Raime.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Awesome. Are there any other questions, comments, enlightenment? Anything?
This was fabulous.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Have a Shabbat Shalom and a great weekend.
We're coming over to Pauline's house for Shabbat.
There's so many pots on the stove, on the table, in the oven. There's Raime for everyone if you wish to join us. Okay? Just come over.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank